my woodworking career, I got real attached to the belt sander as a good all-around sanding tool. It's very, very versatile, especially with a few accessories. Most of you know about it in using it to sand flat surfaces, but today I'm going to show you that it'll also do curved and contoured surfaces. One of the things that you've got to appreciate about this particular belt sander is when you attach it to a Shopsmith, or right now, as you can see, I've got it on the power stand, you have a variable speed belt sander. Most of the belt sanders on the market go way, way too fast. As a result, they burn the wood away. They go too fast for sanding wood. Most of them are made for grinding metal. But the belt sander here can be slowed down so that you can sand the wood aggressively or gently, whatever you need, and you can adjust it for certain woods. For example, maple and cherry burn very, very quickly if you run the belt sander too fast. So you can slow it down. On the other hand, you can sand other woods like walnut very fast. So let's get started here. I'm not going to show you anything about sanding flat surfaces. Jim McCann did a great job of that on a recent sanding session. What I'm going to show you is that there are some ways that you can sand contours. Now, first of all, without using an accessory, you should know about you should know about getting the dust off the belt sander, as Drew says. Yes, the dust on this particular tool is a force to be reckoned with. On the back side of the tool, you have an unsupported belt, and you can actually use this to sand with, and be able to sand surfaces that are both concave and convex. I've used this often when turning things like rolling pins, where you have a nice ball at each end, and I will sand the end of the rolling pin after turning it there to get it round. But it makes a nice, good, soft-sided sander. Now, let's take this back. And this may be almost as, no, yep, there we go. I thought it was going to be almost as hysterical, but I managed to get it back into a relatively horizontal position. We're going to work on this little deer I made in the Sawdust session on compound cuts, and I'm going to show you several accessories that you can mount to the power takeoff on the side of the belt sander. The first one is one that you make yourself. Here we go. This is nothing more than a piece of plywood with some holes drilled into it. I've got a nice big hole here that we can stick various sanding things through. I'll show you what these holes are in a minute. These holes and the bolts in them mount right here on the table. And it sort of extends the surface. It doesn't sort of. It actually does extend the surface of the table down to so that it goes around the arbor. Now, you can use any of these accessories without this table. It's not absolutely necessary to have it. But if you need to square surfaces, it's handy to have. This is a 2.5-inch drum sander, and if we were going to do some of the surfaces on the deer, and we wanted to keep the crisp edges on the deer, you can see that this does very nicely. If this were a much bigger deer, you might want to use this mama right here. This is 4 inches long. This one is 8, and will stick out quite a bit more. I'm not going to bother to mount it, but I just want you to know it's available if you're doing big deers. In addition to these larger drum sanders, we have a whole passel of smaller ones. These are, let's see, let's go to a close-up camera. Which one shall we choose here? Hey, check camera. Hey, there we go. They go from about 1.5 inches in diameter. There's 1, 3/4, and a half. Let me get this. Now these cannot be mounted directly on the arbor. So let me take the drum sander off. And put the drill chuck on. Now, obviously, you cannot use this particular table with the drum sander the way I just showed you. You can't rest the piece against the table. Still, you've got the drum sander sticking out, and you can do much tighter radiuses. Than you can do with the ordinary drum sander. Now, if you would need that guide, you can build up an attachment which would hold this flat out here if you want to. So another thing that you can do, and now I'm going to show you what these extra holes are for. You can use the holes to mount a steady rest if you want to. It's easier to take it off. Choose the hole where you want to put the rest. Let's put this fairly close. Hold it. I'm holding it in place on the back with a wing nut. All this steady rest is a hex bolt. A 6-inch hex bolt. In fact, if you want to, you can grind off the top end of the bolt so that you don't have to mess with it. But the nice thing about this is that you can use this the same way you would use a starter pin on a router. You can rest the piece you want to sand on it and then rotate in. You have one heck of a lot more control if you rest this on it and then rotate in and then do your sanding. If you're trying to touch this piece grabs and throws it at you, and you may remove a little bit more than you want. You may break off a piece if it's fairly delicate, like this is. The steady rest helps a great deal. It gives you control. You have a lot more. You have a lot more control over the type of sanding you're trying to do. Now the drum sanders are for sanding curves. But what if we wanted to make this deer contoured? Well, there are some other things that we can mount. I'm going to just for the heck of it, I'm going to rate these things in aggression. Each of these accessories that I show you. Let's take a scale from 1 to 5, with 5 being the most aggressive and 1 being the least aggressive. Because a lot of times you choose a sanding tool not only for for what kind of surface you can do, but how aggressively it will sand. Sometimes you want to sand by sawdust. I I usually wear a mask when I'm doing sanding, and you should too. I can't do it now, or I'd boom like this, and you'd barely be able to understand what I'm saying. But going back to the point here, the point being is that sometimes you want an aggressive sander that removes a lot of stock very quickly, and other times you want something that's a lot less aggressive and gives you more control. The drum sanders on a scale of 1 to 5 are about a 5. They're about the most aggressive thing that you can choose. These are flap sanders. They're sheets of sandpaper that roll around a drum. They're usually cloth backed. You can get them in various grits. So this one is a very, very fine grit, while this one is much rougher. You can get them in various sizes. Let's go to A here, and I'll show you. Here's a nice, big, thick flap sander. Here's one a little bit smaller, and smaller yet. Again, these are made to mount in the chuck. I began to round over the side of this deer, and I'd say the flap sander. Now this one was that I started with didn't have enough grit on it to really dig in there, but this is probably about a 2 on the 4 on the aggressive scale. It can be a pretty aggressive tool, especially when you have very long flaps and a rough grit. It will also, if you want more aggression, it also helps if you get these flap sanders with spaces in between. And these spaces allow more of the abrasive surface to actually reach the wood, and these will cut much faster than the ones where they're spaced close together. Next is flutter sheets. Flutter sheets are just, let's go back to A here. There you go. They're just sheets of sandpaper that have been cut so that they have little fingers in them. You stack them up, one on top of the other, in sort of a, let me get just to where I have just 4 of them, in sort of a pattern like this. and they begin to form a circle as you make them. You can stack them all so the abrasive faces one way, or you can stack them so the abrasive actually goes back and forth. You can get different effects with each stacking pattern. You put them together, and here's what looks like a well-used flutter sheet thing looks like. These fingers. Yeah, this is well used, isn't it? These fingers reach into the cracks and the crevices and sand every little thing. Let me show you real quick. This is actually going to, see if I can get that now. There we go. I'm going to remove the steady rest for this one. The flutter sheets are big enough in diameter that they'll actually polish that steady rest. There we go. There. Now, as you can see, you can reach well, we've gone from a butt to a dough here. You can reach every little place. Now that's what I get for making these things out of Gelatine. Live TV, you gotta love it, folks. Anyway, the flutter sheets are probably a 3 on the aggression. There's also sanding mops. These are a little like flutter sheets in that they have fingers of abrasives. But what you have is brushes that back up these sheets and brush them against the wooden surface. This one they're called this is called a Sandaflex. This one actually will mount on a 5/8 inch arbor, so you can mount this directly on the Shopsmith or the PTO of the belt sander. This one is somewhat smaller and mounts in the chuck. It just has an ordinary 1/4 inch arbor. If you want to see what the abrasive is like that you're using, let's go to A here. There you go. It's just a bunch of coiled up sheets that have been cut into fingers, and as you use these up, you loosen the top of the Sandaflex, and here I'll get it for you and show you how it's done. You loosen the top, take this out, and then at this point I can pull out on the fingers a little bit. There we go. I can pull those out and then tighten it back up again. There we go. Now at this point I would go in with a pair of shop scissors and just cut those off rather than leave them hanging there. This is about a 2 on the aggression scale. The brushes are probably very gentle. Finally, and we're going back to A here, you have a sanding brush. Now this is a nice little piece. They're hard to come by. I haven't found them in many catalogs, but when I do, I usually get a bunch. These are twisted strands of plastic fibers, and embedded in those strands are various abrasives. The blue one here is about 320 on the grit scale, and it's very fine. These fingers reach into every little crevice, very deep. You can do real nice detail with this, and it doesn't remove too much at a time. Great for cleaning up carvings if you want a really smooth surface. This is about a 1. This is about as gentle as you get on the abrasive scale, and of course, as the grits get higher, it gets gentler and gentler. So, folks, that's it. That's take my dough and go home here. That's one of the ways you can turn a belt sander into an entire sanding station. I'll take some questions now if you have them.